Okie doke, got a few people here with us now, so let's get going. Okay, so you would have seen this card that I put up on Facebook yesterday was. That's what I'll go through today. So it's actually incorporating the brand new Mandala stencils that Lisa brought to us last Friday, I believe. I actually received these Friday morning, so I've only had a few days to play with them. But they're really great, so there's an awful lot you can do with these, and you would have seen in the group, in our Crafting with Lisa Horton group, that the rest of the design team have got some fabulous designs with these too. But I've teamed them up with the 4 Point Blooms stamps and stencil set as well, as you can see here. So let's get going. Again, I'm using like a watercolour card for this. I'm really enjoying working on this at the moment. It's a really nice heavy weight to work on, and if you're anything like me and you sort of change tack when you're halfway through a project and decide to add some water or whatever, you know that your base card there is actually going to take this. So what I started off doing, I'm going to use the mandala just to create the background for the stamp, and I'm actually, while I'm at it, I'm going to use the texture stamps as well, just to build up the background before we move on to the flowers. I'm using Distress Oxides for these, and they've got a really lovely chalky finish to them. I just really like the finish for this, and they blend so easy, and I've got quite a lot of card to cover there. So I'm using just a normal blending sponge, and again I'm just holding this in place. I like to quite offset the stencils a little bit, I think it gives a nice edgy look, but you can quite easily put this in the centre. This would work if you centred up the design there as well, but I'm actually going to put this off centre, and we're just going to add our colour. So what I'm using here is can you see that? Yes, you can. Bundled Sage. Probably one of my favourite colours, actually, Distress Oxides. It goes with pretty much everything, but it's a lovely soft colour. So all I'm doing is just adding the ink. Don't worry too much at this stage if it's patchy. Again, this, I think I've said it in the past, but it actually adds to the overall effect, and by the time you've put other sort of stamped designs and everything on, that patchiness really does sort of get hidden into the background. So you can see there that I've added my design. If I take that away, you can see just how lovely it is, even like that. So let's replace that there. I'm going to keep that in place because what I really want is to keep sort of the integrity of the bright outline there. So I'm going to do some stamping, but I'm going to do that with the stencil in place. So we can just re-centre that. Perfect. So I'm going to take the texture stamps now. I used a mixture of a couple. This time I didn't use the text. The text would look lovely, but I just went for the the splat one that's here, and this, just a really distressed look. This one is really lovely to build up and not be too precious where you place it, and also use a couple of colours as well. So initially I'm just going to go in with the Bundled Sage again, the one that I've blended the ink into the background with. I quite like to use the same ink to stamp onto. Not a lot of people would actually think of doing that. You'd think it sort of blend into the background and you wouldn't see it, but it actually gives such a lovely effect. Now all I'm doing here, you see, I'm actually just being quite random with where I place this stamp, and you can see how that distressed look is starting to build up into the background, and I really am not being particularly careful where I'm placing this. And I'm just going to add a little bit into the background there. it's quite a good idea to just reverse or rotate your stamp a little bit as well, just so as you can get a use around all the sort of the different edges of the pattern. Right, and at the same time I'm going to put this splat design onto a block. I'm going to use some of that as well. Cool. And I'm going to go in with the shabby shutters. Now this is going to be very pale against what you've already stamped, but it really does sort of lift your design. I don't know if you can see that. It's not an in-your-face sort of impression, but what it does do, it really starts building up that pattern, and now it's in this area of the design, you can see where it isn't here, so you can see that it is actually adding something, and it is all about that layering of images. And because these aren't sort of specific images as such, they are perfect for layering. Lisa's got this stamp set just so right for this sort of design. What I'm going to do now, actually, I'm just going to take this off of the block, because I want to use the flexibility of the stamp there. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to start stamping into the petal design of the mandala there. I'm keeping the mandala in place because obviously I want to keep the white, and all I'm just doing is just putting that into the petals just randomly. You'll notice also when you use oxides that initially the image is quite bold and you can see it there, but the chalky nature of the ink means that when it dries it goes a lot more subtle. I think that's a really nice effect, and it's a good quality of the inks to exploit sometimes. So you can see there that I'm just building that up, and I'll just put a little bit down in this way. So if I take that stamp away, the stencil away there, you can see we've built up a really nice distressed background. Just using greens. Now, there we go. I'm just going to take away that excess ink there. You would normally mop that up onto another project, but I would certainly get distracted if I'd done that now. Okay, so you can see that's a really lovely background there. I mean, you can introduce more colour, you can introduce bolder designs, or even a text stamp. I mean, that's something that it will change every single time. You can looking back to the one that I've already done, this is a lot more heavier in design, but it works. I like it. So we'll just move these to one side. Right, we're going to start incorporating the designs from the 4-point bloom stamps here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the largest leaf design. Now I always go towards leaves initially in my designs. I really like this sort of look, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that on a small stamping block, and I'm going to use the forest moss ink here. Now the idea now is to build up this wreath around the flowers here. When I design this sort of card, I tend to work from the background upwards, so my first thought was actually getting the background done, and then I saw the opportunity to actually stamp the leaves. The flowers didn't come sort of till much later. I literally do work in that order from sort of this way upwards. People work in different ways. Some people would have sat and stamped and die cut all the flowers first and then sort of built the design around that. I very much work from background upwards. Now, when it comes to stamping the leaves here, I use the pattern of the mandala to actually figure out where I'm going to place the leaves. Now this is a natural flower shape as it is. What I done, I used this portion of the design to actually stamp these leaves into. Now, both of these products were designed at completely different times by two different people, but I was quite impressed and I couldn't believe how well the leaf from the 4-point bloom set actually fits within that mandala. I mean, obviously it's not perfect, but to me, I think it was just, they work so well together. Now what this also does, it gives you the placing, so you actually create a really nice rosette of leaves, because you've already got the spacing around. So as long as you try and keep the similar centre point from the tip of the leaf to the centre of the flower there, centre of the mandala, you will end up with a pretty even wreath all the way around. So as you can see, we can start building this up. Now I've gone with the orange and the yellow tones here, but when I was stamping this, I kept telling myself to stay away from the red flowers, because if you think about it, if we used red flowers on top of this, this would make a perfect, like a poinsettia Christmas card, particularly with the tone of this green. I think that would work really, really well. So don't be surprised when it comes to nearer that time, that festive time, that I start bringing this design out again with the red flowers. You can see there that we've got a lovely rosette of leaves, which leads us nicely into creating the posy of flowers. Now you could, and it's something I possibly will do, either later on today or later on in the week, is take one of these smaller designs and actually stamp perhaps one of these smaller leaves in between the gaps there. Now you could possibly do that in a slightly different green tone. I think that would work really well. And it will just add to sort of perhaps the more, maybe I should do that now. Let's not talk about it, let's actually do that. I'm not going to use the forest moss for that. I'm going to go in with the bundled sage, I think. And I'm just going to stamp in there. So it's all about the layering with these designs. And the more you can sort of fit into the background, the more complete it makes your overall composition, I think, particularly when it comes to sort of the main focal point. And you can see I don't need to worry, or I don't need to think about too much about the placement of the leaves, because the mandala is already setting that out for me. Now it can be quite tricky to create an even rosette like that. You can see how that's really building up. I like that. So that's the greens finished. So I'm just going to set that aside for one moment and we'll concentrate on the flowers. I'm using the same thickness of card, mainly as well because it's got a slight texture to it, so it just keeps continuity with the background of the card. Now for the flowers I use Distress ink, and I've gone with the mustard seed and spiced marmalade. So all we do, we cover our background. There's different ways of doing this. You can perhaps die cut the flowers first and then colour them. I done it this way because I wanted to play around with the colouring first before I started die cutting, so I haven't actually got any prep today. So I'll just go ahead and I'll do all of these. Again, as with everything in nature, colour isn't always even and it isn't always uniform, so don't worry too much if your colours aren't even, or if the blending isn't perfect all the way across, because by the time we've die cut the flowers and stamped on top of this, it really isn't going to make any difference. And you can just see, actually, because I'm doing this real time, just how quick you can be. Now I wanted to add an element of the orange in there too, so I'm going to stamp a couple of the larger flowers. Now what I'm going to do is add some orange into the centre of these. And another thing, with these stamps being stored on these clear acetates, you can actually see where you're going to place. I think that's a really useful, what's the word, a really useful tip to have. Now I can see where the centre of the flower is going to be, so this is where I want to put my orange, in the centre there, and I can make that as dark as I want to. So when I stamp over that, I'm going to get the benefit of the orange. Now I'm going to have a second flower here. I need to stamp, how many? I've done 2 large, 1 medium. This is a medium flower. And 2 of these smaller flowers. So I can probably fit the smaller flowers on here as well. Put one there and we'll put one there. Now you could stamp the flowers with a distress ink over this, it would work, but again, because of the nature of the distress ink, the actual detail of the lines will fade sort of into the background a little bit. So what I found useful to use was the Distress Archive. If you don't have these, by all means go with the distress ink, you'll still get the same effect. It's just fortunate that I was able, that I had these spiced marmalade. This one is fossilised amber, but it's as close to mustard seed as we need to be to stamp these flowers. So we'll stamp those with the centre on the orange burst. We'll give that a really good press down. So we have 1 yellow flower, and what I'll do, I'll stamp the other one in orange. So that just gives us that bit of variety, and you can see the difference in the detail then. And these just the archival links, they are brilliant for stamping any detailed images, and that's why I chose these to stamp the flowers out. And you can see there we've got 2, the flowers look very different, but once they've been die cut and you sort of mix them onto the card, they'll look perfect. So we'll go with the middle-sized flower. Now you can see my stamps are already, put it on there, already slightly orange. You'll find that when you use the oranges and yellow inks, that they do stain your stamps however much you clean them. Obviously it doesn't affect the stamps in the slightest. It's just one of those quirks of the orange and yellow inks. So we have that one. Let's take that away. And we'll stamp the smaller oranger ones. We have 1 and 2. Okay, let's die cut these. Now, I find when I'm using stamps and dies that match in the way that these do, I always stamp the image first and then die cut them out. That's the way that I find it easier. You can obviously die cut the flowers, and you can use these flowers without stamping them actually. You can just use them as die cuts and then decorate them in whichever way you like. But obviously you can die cut them and then stamp them first if you want to. If you use a clear stamping block, you've got that advantage of being able to see through. so you know where to place your die. And I'll just do that one. I hope I've given you a different idea on how to use your mandala stamps. The shows were brilliant if you saw Lisa's shows last Friday. And they really sort of brought home the mindfulness of using these mandala stamps. I mean, you can the same way as if you have the stamps, you can stamp or stencil them out, then you can colour in between. Just because you haven't got a stamped image doesn't mean that you can't colour even through these stencils. So that's another way to use these. But as with everything, I thought I'd just show you a slightly different way of using the stencils, just so you get the mileage out of them. If you're going to spend your money on them and they're going to be sitting in your craft room, then obviously you want to get the most out of them. And if you have any other ideas as well, we'd love to see your ideas if you post them into the group, into the this Crafting with Lisa Horton. I think that most people who watch Lisa are part of that group now. But it would be lovely to see all your designs. There's always a member of the design team hanging about, lurking about in the background. So we're always ready to answer questions and give encouragement, or just if you want to run some of your ideas past us. Because sometimes when you're crafting, you can get so far with a card and you don't always know how to finish it, so there's always somebody there. Okay, that one's just gone off kilter a little bit, never mind. And we'll just stamp the last one out. We'll die cut the last one out. Okay, we was actually having a chat with Lisa at the weekend, and she was giving us the plan for the shows that are coming up. There's some lovely products coming up, some new things coming your way as well. So Lisa will keep us updated with the latest dates and next time she's going to be on the show for us. So if you keep your eye open either on Lisa's own Facebook page or within the group. Okay, so now I have the flowers. I'm just going to gently shape these, and all I do is just hold the centre and just sort of bend it around my finger a little bit there. Even on a thicker cardstock, you'll find that you can just always shape these flowers just enough just to add a little bit of dimension. You can see the difference already between the flat one and the one that's bent slightly. So that's what gives your cards that 3D look. Okie doke, and the last one. Now, I will use a foam pad just on some of these, just to add that little bit of extra dimension too. So I'm just going to place perhaps one there like that, and we can put perhaps one under there. So I'm just going to take my glue, which I should have unblocked before I come on. Bear with me. Oh, there we are. Oh, that was lucky. That worked first time, didn't it? Okay. So put a bit of glue on the back there, and just interweave the petals there. They don't always have to sit on top of one another. So just hold that down slightly, then we'll work with the next one down. And we'll pop that one in there. Now the beauty of when you do this, although these cards are going to be very similar, the placement of the flowers is what's going to make these cards different. And just pop one in there. So you can see now that once we start adding the die cuts of the flowers, it takes on a whole different look sort of very quickly. And where should we pop this one? We'll just pop that one in there, I think. Now, with attention to detail with Lisa's designs, what she's actually done, she's actually given us the centre of the flowers, and I'll just show you on the die cuts here. It's these ones here, these two circle ones. Now, this magnetic sheet is ideal for keeping these because I could potentially lose these. But these just add that final finishing detail on this card, which really brings it to life. So I'll just add a dog of glue in the centre of each. I'll use my pickup tool. Now this isn't just for the gems. This works brilliantly for these tiny little details as well. So we can pick those up. Take the detail and you can add those to our centres. Now we've got the larger circles, the larger flowers there, and we can use these smaller ones. Just like this. Obviously you could add gems in the centre of these flowers too, I mean that's entirely up to you. I like the look with the black there, just really makes them pop. Now that glue will dry clear. Now all I think I need to do is add a sentiment. Now I did actually stamp these sentiments, so let's have myself a piece of card. So we've got smooth stamping card here, and we can take one of these ticker sentiments which are so bold and they just work on everything. So what have I put on this one? I put thanks a bunch, so I think what I could put on, I'll use happy birthday on this. I think this would be a lovely card to send as a birthday card, brighten anybody's day. So we want a stamping block. We just put those flat. Now I did experiment with different colours on how to stamp the sentiment. Personally I think the black looks as the best. It comes up really bold and it actually sort of brings out the centre of the flowers. So stamp that down, we'll give that a good press. I think I've said before, when you're stamping something like this, don't be too eager to pull the stamp away. You don't necessarily press down too hard, but it's just allowing the ink to transfer from the stamp to the card, which gives us that perfect impression like that. It's just perhaps one of those little things that when you've just started stamping, you may wonder why you're not getting such a crisper impression as perhaps other people. And that might be just what you need to try, just allow the ink to transfer from your stamp to the card just that little bit longer. So we just snip those away. Such a quick and easy sentiment. Same with all the ticker sentiments there on that. Now I think when we was chatting with Lisa, it could be we may have some more designs coming soon. I'm not going to give away any more than that, and I'm not entirely sure when, but I'm pretty sure that there will be some more ticker sentiments on our way, or on their way very soon. So there we are. What have I done with my blank card? There it is. So that's now ready to pop onto the card base, like so. There we are. So it's actually quite a quick card that comes together. It's slightly different. You can see that we've perhaps filled in the gaps a little bit, although they're not always evident with the extra flowers in the background. If we put less of the die cut flowers on, you would see them, but it proves a point that you can actually sort of build up a nice rosette and use the mandala stencil to actually place those for you. It's certainly worth playing around. I hope I've given you a few more ideas today and something a little bit different. Let's have a see at some of the questions. Oh, hi there, Mum. Oh, don't worry, I was a bit late starting myself today, but you'll be able to catch up if you missed it. Hi, Dawn. Oh yeah, the set is perfect to use in so many ways. But I think, as with all of Lisa's sets, I mean, they all mix and match, and you can create so many different styles using the same products that you just don't get bored using them. There's always something different to make. Let's see. Oh, hi Sarah, nice to see you here. Oh, and Caroline. Oh, don't worry, Caroline, if you're a bit late tuning on, you can always catch up. Fortunately, these videos all stay in the they stay in the group. Oh, hi Lisa. Yes, they do look like Black Eyed Susan flowers. They really do. That's sort of where I was going with that. I think I was chatting with Dawn. And we said the same thing. Oh, it's lovely to have so many people come and join us. Ah, there we are. Lisa's saying that there might be new tickers on the 12th of June. Aha. So you heard it here first. So not even we've seen those. So I can't wait to see what comes out with those. There'll be a huge hit again, I'm sure. But I think I'll leave you today. I hope I've showed you something a bit different. And I shall see you again next Tuesday. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Bye.